as well? Surat?
Surat.
Yes.
Surat, yes,
They were
yes. Surat,
initiated.
I was initiated. We were initiated in Surat only.
Side of bamboo, you know, white, and we had rose water. People were on the balconies. It was really a nice welcome.
Prabhu, you remember Jasomati Nandan Prabhu? Jasomati Nandan Prabhu, you remember him? He is from Surat. He is Prabhupada disciple.
Yasomati Nandan?
Yes, he's my friend.
Yeah, they're good friends.
Yes, he's my good friend.
Yeah, so he started actually the
Yeah,
whole Gujarat.
I know.
So I was fortunate that he gave us association for so many years. But he passed away in
I know.
2021?
2020.
I was someplace where he was and I knocked on the door, but I guess he was too ill. Do you remember someone who came to town and we had lunch at Brahma's restaurant?
Yes,
That
yes.
was him.
He's so kind and young.
Well,
Oh.
And his son was
That's
there in the
right.
temple. His son was also there in Berkeley temple.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Very, very
Shamlal,
kind.
Sham Sundar. What is his name? Sham. Sham.
And this is Rohit.
Hare
Oh, I'm
Krishna.
sorry, I didn't. This is good friend Rohit, good friends with Gurudas, Prabhu, and myself. Very kind.
So I had lunch with Vaishya Shekhar, I guess 3-4 weeks ago. We went to the Sadhu Sangha in Florida.
Orlando.
4,000 devotees,
It was wonderful.
3 days of
It was
kirtan.
really-
And you got to see so many old friendly faces of our spiritual family. And so much love. And the prasadam was great as well for so many people. We were all in a hotel.
For 3 days.
Then I went to Shamarani's ashram.
Did you? How's
Yeah.
she doing?
Oh, she's
She
great.
looks good.
Yeah,
She's
she's
just doing it so fine.
wonderful.
And I spoke
Very
about
sweet.
art.
Uh-huh.
Prabhupada said,
There at her location.
Yeah.
At her temple. Very nice.
I did an art talk.
Oh, very
So,
good.
Prabhupada said he said things like, accounting means put it down immediately. Little instruction things. So we were in Barsan looking at some art, and Prabhupada said, art means full belly. I waited. He said, people who are surviving can't appreciate the art. And people who are starving cannot appreciate Krishna consciousness. And then he said, so feed them all. So did you want to ask me some questions for the interview, or how would you like to do that? Or I'm a cow, milk me.
Whatever that can help us make progress in Krishna consciousness about glories of Srila Prabhupada or any other special moments with Srila Prabhupada.
You speak louder, please.
Okay. What he is saying that you can speak about the memories which you have with Prabhupada, and these memories will enrich us in Krishna consciousness to advance ourselves in Krishna consciousness.
For spiritual paths and alternatives to the material world, even though the material world is very good, it had no purpose per se. So we were studying Native American, Zen Buddhism, shamanism, and of course India. So if you were to make a list of what you'd want in a Swami from India. Well, you'd want someone compassionate. And you'd want some wise. And you'd want somebody who was actually kind, and hopefully maybe humorous. See, you were all laughing because humor is based on surprise. Do you remember what Prabhupada's definition of humor was? Something that you don't expect.
Ah, yeah, I can't
Any
remember
rate.
exactly, but it's very humorous.
So, by Krishna's grace, I was studying with another so-called guru. He was teaching Hatha Yoga, and he wanted me and Jamuna also to teach Hatha Yoga, and he took little bits of the Vedas. It was sort of a hodgepodge, and he wanted us to join, but then, by Krishna's grace, we met Prabhupada. Mukunda had come from New York, and then we were all living in a place together, and Jamuna met Prabhupada. She went to Janaki's wedding, and at first she didn't know what to make of the Swami. We called him the Swami. But she was a really good cook. So he said it's the custom for the sister to cook for the sister's wedding. So I will teach you. So they were cooking, and she touched, and he said, we don't touch when we're cooking, it's a purification process. Well, he said, go wash your hands. And you've heard this story. About an hour later she said, Swamiji, can I go smoke a cigarette? The great Jamuna. See, this is what, he was making barbarians into Brahmins, you see.
Yes.
Yes.
Go wash your hands. Then cooks that are not Krishna conscious, then she went to taste. And he said, we don't taste. She thought, what? Everybody tastes, how do you know? So he was spoon feeding us, literally, and he said, go wash your hands. She thought it was the first mantra. She comes back, then she wasn't sure about him, but then he said, you've been working so hard, take rest. And he could see that he cared. He was like a father. He was like a father to all of us, actually. My father was nice, but that was one of the things that stood out, that this great soul was caring so much about us. So she came raving back, you got to meet the Swami, and then Mukunda came, and Ray Rama and Hayagriva to help him translate the books. And so there's a classic idea of the chela, the disciple, waiting at the gate until they're ready. And so we really didn't get to see him very much, except we had kirtan 3 times a week. And they were long and great. There was no altar, no mridangas, no kartals, no books, no movement. but we had the Swami. So would you take the phalanx of armies or Krishna? So we had the Swami sitting among us, and all instruments were allowed in the kirtan. And then he would speak a little, but again he was spoon-feeding us. We didn't have the prayers. He would write the prayers on a little chalkboard.
And this is about 1967, right?
1967.
Yeah, really.
So when we heard about the Swami, we were looking for a place, so we found a storefront on Frederick Street, not too far from here. And he came, and we cleaned it out, and he came. We went to the airport in a caravan. In those days, we painted our cars. These are the hippie days. A Thormobile, a Batmobile, a Krishnalak. One of the devotees' father had a Cadillac, and his son painted Hare Krishna. His father was not too pleased with it. So we had the Krishnalak, and we had another car. So the whole caravan, and everybody was in different costumes in those days. There were people who were dressed like Native Americans with feathers in their hair, and I had a samurai outfit that Jamuna made, and Sam Mashunda had a Afghani shepherd's outfit that smelled like sheep, and Mukunda had a paisley thing. So we went there.
You went to the airport?
At the airport, maybe 40, 50 people, because our temple was becoming very popular because we fed people. And they liked kirtan, they liked prasadam, and the little knowledge we were. But we really didn't know much. As I say, he was on top of the mountains, seeing us climb up, and he knew how to deal with each of us. That was what's so nice. He was able to. The example is Krishna with the Rasalita. All the gopis were satisfied, and they had different personalities. So then, I was wanting to have more association. And then he called me in. Well, I did get initiated, and I think we were the 7th and 8th. And there was a third one, Shamanandi, Hayagriva's wife, Shamanandi Devi Dasi, I think, she got initiated too. And Janaki, we didn't know anything. So instead of ghee, Janaki made margarine. It's not even butter. And instead of real wood, she just made fruit box. It wasn't real wood. So the fire sputtered at first, but then with his lotus hands, he made a little tent and it burst into flame. So at the initiation, everybody till that time had names according to their legal name. Mukunda was Mike, Samashunda was Sam, Janaki was Jan, and he gave me our name, Roger. But I was going through kind of a crisis myself because I wasn't sure if I really wanted to surrender. And if I really knew what it was, then I would even have more of a crisis. He told somebody, if I gave you the rules and regulations, at first you'd go away. So I didn't hear the our name. And then he stopped and said, no, your name is Gurudas. And everyone went, ah. So then he called me in. Somebody in India wanted to know a Pentax camera. And I had Nikon, and so he wanted to see my camera. And when I came in, he had this huge smile, oceanic smile, and he was so accepting, and he made me feel comfortable. And he said, somebody in India wants a Pentax camera, can you find out and tell me the prices? And I said, yes. And then he saw my camera, and he went like this. There was a light meter. Back then there was a photosynth and an arrow. And he must have looked at it for like 10 minutes. Time stopped. He was not in a hurry. He was in the now, 100%. Now my foot was in the door, so I brought Pentax catalogs, and I started photographing him. And I would find an excuse to go to be with him. So we just saw Govinda Dasi at the Sadhusanga. She and the others said, don't let Gurudas in anymore, he's always there. But Swamiji didn't say that, they did. And Krishna had other plans. When I was there, they were in the kitchen. Oh, there's Gurudas again. Now, just to show you the personality is non-compromising, the tradition, but he was also playful, humorous, far-thinking, adventurous. I mean, he gave us almost impossible things to do. It wasn't, the envelope was wide. So there was pakoras in the kitchen, you could smell it. So he got up and he went into the kitchen and they were just cooling, and he took a pakora and he would eat without touching his mouth. We tried to imitate and it would bounce off. We had a whole jar of gulab jamans on the way to Canada. The authorities thought they were drugs. They analyzed the gulab jamans. We were trying to eat it and it bounced off our mouth. So he takes one, and Harsharani was, there's always a rule enforcer, right? In families, they have certain roles in every family. So of course in Krishna consciousness, there's some people who like to be the temple commanders or whatever. So she was the rule enforcer. So she said, Swamiji, you can't do that. His answer was he took another and put it in his mouth. So she said, when we cook for Krishna, we don't touch, we don't taste. He said, who has given you those rules? You have. Then I can break. He was like a little mischievous. So we got initiated, and then, so before the initiation, I was, like I said, I still wasn't sure. He knew. When should I get initiated? Tomorrow. He didn't want my chinchilla mind, he knew. So when should we get married? Tomorrow. At the marriage, there was a woman, the third cushion, a woman who wanted to marry the Swami. And people were considering that because we wanted to get his green card, the immigration card. So people were saying, well, if you marry somebody from the United States, he said, no, I'm a sannyasi. He had to, you see how we didn't know much? Anyway, she wanted to marry Swami, and she had a little child. And the child's head was hitting the floor. And everybody was going like that, and the Prabhupada's looking to the Vaikuntha. A lot of times he was looking that way. But then he saw. So he says, pick up baby. And she didn't realize, and she was a mother. And Prabhupada said, we'll be strong, baby. So then we got married, and when I was photographing, he teased me. He said, you know, in India there's a superstition that when someone is photographed, it'll take their soul and shorten their life. So my camera, like the Gandiva bow, dropped. But then I picked it up, and he said, what do you think of that, Gurudas ji? And I said, well, it's not how long we live, Swamiji, it's what we do with our life. And he went, oh, what a smart pupil. And he said that was just a superstition. But I wanted to talk a little bit about India. So it was great being with him. He taught us the basics. We went to Montreal on the way, went to New York. There was only a few temples back then. And he wanted something in London. And our only plan is we want to meet the Beatles because they were very popular. Now, who would think of doing that if it wasn't in their belief system? So by this time, we believed in Krishna, and he gave us Brahmin initiation in Montreal. It was Janmashtami and Vyas Puja, and I was the photographer, so I had photos of Krishna and Radha and the Swami. So a man comes and says, Swamiji, I don't think they should bow down to you. And he says, as you don't think they should bow down to me, they think you should bow down to me. And this is a majority, a democracy, so majority rules. You see how clever? I don't think they should. Immediately, without missing. So then we went to London, and it was very successful. Now, in 1967, I was reading Paramahansa Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and it actually got a lot of devotees ready for Krishna consciousness. There were mystic cities, and he was very spiritual, and it was just a good book. And one chapter stood out when his brother sent him to Vrindavan as a test with no money and said, let's see what your Krishna will do for you. And people welcomed him and gave him money, and he came back successful. And for some reason, that picture of Krishna stood out. And so in 1967, I asked Prabhupada, can I go to Vrindavan? And he remembered. So on the way to India, we had a godbrother, and it was the plane only had 2 propellers, and the cockpit was no door, it was just a blanket. And there were people with goats in the plane, and chickens, and and I was in charge of 17 of the creme de la creme, and I remember Giri Raj, Maya's every place. Well, I was telling Giriraj a few of Prabhupada's humorous things to lighten him up, but we get to Cairo in Egypt the day after President Nasser was assassinated. So the whole country was in mourning. I went to make sure our bag and baggage was transferred to another plane. The devotees were out on the tarmac, jumping up and down and chanting. In the airport, there were large photos of Master and black everywhere. People were mourning. I had a new movie camera. Prabhupada told us, bring equipment, bring things to irons and cameras and bring tools for our mission. So I had a new movie camera and I was photographing the devotees in the airport, there's Nassau. And then I saw soldiers running at the devotees with bayonets and they were drooling with red eyes. And so I saw that, and then suddenly the camera's on my arm going like that, and Chaitra Guru comes into me, and I go between them and I say, we're singing the praises of President Nassau. And then they became our guard. Sing as long as you like. So listen to your intuition because it'll save your life more than once. That's we have preconceived two ways to make decisions. Our poetic, intuitive, Krishna coming into our soul and giving us intelligence, or everything is preconceived like the Bible. Okay, well this says this so I don't have to think. Krishna wants us to think. Krishna wants us to be our real selves. We all act the same because it's a group, it's a peer pressure thing. And so we have to act right. But we also have our real selves. And the Chinta Beta Beta Tattva means we have this relationship with Krishna. So we're acting right, but we also want to, when we pray, we want Krishna to see our real selves, like a child calling for the mother, and like that. So we get to India, and it was the day after Ram Navami, and the plane opened, and the loo, the hot air came, and it was like, and it embraced me, and something felt like, I'm from America, but I feel like this is my mother country. It's a little softer, the time is slower. I still feel that way, by the way. I think I've lived there for 7, 8 years. 5 years, Krishna Balaram Temple. So, at the airport, there's a man with a fedora and no dhoti or anything, and he was greeting us. And I thought he was a detective. He looked. So I said, "What's your identification?" And he had a telegram from Prabhupada. And it's really funny, in Vrindavan they wrote the telegrams. They didn't type them. I might tell that story later. So he said, it was like Gurudas in charge from Calcutta. Gurudas in charge, go with Mr. Saxeria, he will host us. Okay, so we went in cars, and I'm seeing the countryside, and there were temples, and there were cows, and there were people, dalwalas by the road, and it was just feeling so nice. But I was wondering, why are they honking the horn so much? The horns seem to be more important than the engine or the brakes. Well, then I saw that, okay, the cows were, so I'll skip ahead. We're riding in the car with Prabhupada. He took me everywhere. This is in Orissa, And we're riding in the car. Again, the horn broke. So the cows didn't go to Dalwalla's, and it was dangerous. So Prabhupada said, give me my tali and give me my cane. So I thought it was like a Broadway thing. Give me my tali, give me my cane, ding, ding. So we go out the window, he goes out and go, bang, 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 bang. All the cow, everybody like that. So then he gave it to me, and I did it, and then I gave it to Koyananda for a while. And then we go down, and Prabhupada said, they will think it's their American invention and try to imitate. You see how much he, especially with me, because I have a sense of humor, he would do things like that. So now we're on Marine Drive, and there was a great kirtan party, Dinanath and Jamuna, and so we went to Kalpa Devi, and it was not Marine Drive, it was one of the poorer neighborhoods. And Kailash Acharya sent, with our kirtan party, he sent servants in costumes with silver pictures of Nimbu Pani. So the people thought, oh, this is the American style of kirtan. They come with servants. So I was in charge. So I said, please, well, we drank the Nimbu Pani, and then please go back. So then we did kirtan, and then when we do Harinam, I like to explain to the people, not just do the kirtan, but mantra, explain, because a lot of people want to know, and we want to demystify Krishna consciousness. We want to show the harmony with other spiritualities, that we're not so different, you know? So then I gave a talk, and your culture, and Krishna Conscious 101. I thought I really did a good talk, and I said, are there any questions?
Mm-hmm.
How much does that watch cost, sir? Welcome to India. So, anyway, Prabhupada came from Calcutta. We had some great press conferences. This is the time, one time he chastises me. He said, Gurudas, you were successful in registering a society in England, so please do it in India. So actually, I did some research, and Aurobindo has a good set of aims and objects, which we can distribute books, we can buy property, all the basics. And we were living in my friend's hotel from England, Mr. Chabria, and Prabhupada was so meticulous. He would just be not in a hurry and look. And so he looked at what I wrote for the registration. The first line was, the founder Acharya is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The second line was, the founder Acharya shall have full veto power. But because I didn't put his name again, he said, who's founder Acharya? You? You see? And then he said, Brahmananda? Brahmananda got zapped 8,000 miles because at one time they were saying Prabhupada's God. I don't know if you know that story. You know about it? in New Vrindavan. They were saying Prabhupada's God. I was fighting, 4 of us, for our movement, like samurai, back to back. We had the Bhakti Risam and Nectar of Devotion that said no, that he's representative of God. And so then he said, fix it. So I went to the man. I never paid bakshish in India all the years. 6, 7. They wanted it, but I preached to them, whatever. So he wanted bakshish. So I just wanted that line changed. So he saw I wasn't going to do it. So I said, well, we have a press conference tonight, and I had all these names, the head of the CID and all our life members, they were mill owners, and I dropped a few names, and I said, and I had his name. So what do you want me to say about this press conference, this registration? That you don't know the law, or you wanted bakshish instead of doing your job, or are you fool number 1? And my fist started to, and that really, he said, okay, I will sign. He did. So I come back to Prabhupada. Now we're in the hotel, and he calls me in 5 times a day for nothing, like just to be with me, but he wasn't calling me in. He was doing the silent treatment. Do you know what that is? He does. When you're married and the man or woman is mad at you, I'm not going to talk to you. So he was giving me the silent treatment. He wasn't calling me in. So I go in, and I'm crying. I said, I don't want to be founder Acharya, and I really don't. Even if you pointed at me, I would decline. Anyway. And he says, I know that, but I could think that because he was teaching me that lesson. So we got registered. Then we all went to Amritsar, and Vinod Bhave was there. And it was a Mayavadi conference, but we were invited. So again, for some reason, Prabhupada took me on the television show, took me to the SS Radha Krishnan, took me to the signing of Juhu, took me to Lalit Prasad Thakur. Thank you, Krishna, why me? I was speaking, and they were all Mayavadis, so I said, you know, there's variegatedness in the spiritual world, and we have a relationship with Krishna. We don't become Krishna. And that's why we make choices, and that's why, my young friend, I want you to make the right choices like you've been doing. And if you want, I'll be your kaka. I'll be your uncle to help you if you want. You can call me. That's my pledge, because you're precious. And the devotional kripa is tender at first, so we have to nourish that. So I said, so we make choices and we have variety. That's why we choose a husband or a wife. And that's why we ate prasadam instead of stool in the street. Well, that guy was waiting for me to make a mistake. And in the United States, there's a thing called the hook. Actually they took hooks and take you. So he takes me off the stage and takes me to Prabhupada, and all he remembers is your student is saying stool in the street. He forgot everything else. So I explained Prabhupada, I was explaining variegatedness and choices, and Prabhupada says, my American students use graphic examples. And you just said that today, you were talking about that. this is Chintamani in Krishna Center.
Hare Krishna.
I asked Krishna, and she came that day.
We'll have to translate it, Gujarati, for the beautiful mother you have, so she understands what
Yeah,
you're
and she's
saying.
been so patient. I wish I could speak so you could
We will
understand.
translate that.
But Pishima understood me. Anyway, so my students use graphic examples. So Giriraj took over, but he was sort of, well, he's doing it a little gentler than me, but the man leaves it, Prabhupada said, can I use that example? Yes, Prabhupada. So then, there was no place for us to sleep, so I'm going to show you a preaching tool. So, being kindly, I made sure everybody had a place to sleep. There was no place, but my buddy Giriraj and I went into the midst of the Mayavadis. So I'm laying down, and immediately some man says, we're all God, we become God, and I said, well, we have the qualities of God, but not the quantity. He said, no, the spark and the fire are the same. I said, well, you can't cook a meal with a spark. He says, no, you don't understand. And he said, this thread and the blanket are the same. Chaitra Guru comes into me immediately. It was cold. I took his blanket and gave him the thread. 20 minutes, 15 minutes later, I said, you said it's the same. I said, you have to bow down before my Guru Maharaj tomorrow and stop this nonsense philosophy. Of course, I don't say all Mayavadis are bad with the bread. They're trying. They just haven't been educated. I don't say poo-poo, that we're better. You have to understand that that's what they're taught. So by giving the positive alternative, that can help. Like it did with us. We were somewhat impersonalists. So then we went with Prabhupada. It was so nice in the train. And we were going back to Bombay at the time. And back then in India, it was first, second, and third. They had 3. So I, again, was sitting in the first class compartment with Prabhupada. Oh, it was so nice. He just radiated and he taught. He said, we call each other Prabhu, but that doesn't mean you think I'm the master. And he said, some people you seem to favor more than others. It says it's reciprocation by their seva. But he said, I love all my disciples equally. But if you do something, that's how I can reciprocate. So there's Shastra, Sadhana, and Seva. All 3. So on the way to Bombay, Jamuna's in the cooking car. And she says, I've got to cook for my Guru Maharaj. And they say, no. And Malati's there, and Jamuna says, like Bhakti Siddhanta, I'm going to jump for the train if you... And Malati's saying, no. And they said, okay. So she cooks. She brings it in. I'm sitting there in the station. Chai. Pani. Dai bada. Now Prabhupada knew all the different stations. He said, okay, get samosas from this station. It was really fun to travel with. And it wasn't poo-poo. And then if I take too long, order for it, he said, just to eat. He was like a Jewish mother. It's just to eat, He was really fun. Well, not always. The standard was so high, I really had to be my best behavior at the same time. It's Prabhupada. Any rate. So I'm sitting there, and this man comes in. He's a solicitor. He's got the black lawyer's coat on and his patches, but it's like really raggedy. He gives Prabhupada a sweet that crumbled is from the time of Kurukshetra or something, and they're talking Hindi. And I'm just sitting there, and then Prabhupada said, this man says he can help us start a temple in Delhi. Get down and see what you can do. He kicked me out of the nest. So who will you take with me? Okay, Jamuna, Gurudas, my buddy. Banu from Japan, very nice. And one brahmachari that wasn't getting along with anybody, Gopal. But I thought in a small situation, he became our legs. He was a good brahmachari and intimate. It's just...
So, can I ask, did Prabhupada just say get out and you just got out right there?
Yeah, he
Off
said
the
get
train?
down, see what you can do.
Get off the train.
Yeah.
Go to Delhi.
And the man was so
Just like
cheap,
that.
he tried to get all 5 of us on his motorcycle with our bag and baggage. We said, no, we have to get a taxi. He was strange. We're waiting for him and he goes and urinates in the field. What? Anyways. So he puts us on a temple on the gate of Delhi, New Delhi and Old Delhi, with bandars and weasels in the room. But I was close to Vrindavan. He wrote, now we'll start a life membership program, which was really smart. You can stay at any temple of the world and get all the books for life, 1,111 rupees.
Which was that year?
1971, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, it was brilliant. So Giriraj and I went to see a Mr. Dalmia, and he made a very pious man, cement, many Dalmia. And in his office was Dr. Lokesh Chandra, MP. And we became friends. And he actually helped, his father was the Janta Party opposite. But he joined Congress and he helped Indira Gandhi get elected by telling her to go on a helicopter to all the villages, the farm villages, and they thought she was a goddess. Anyway, he became a life member immediately. He became my friend still to this day. He had a big institute. Okay, so Delhi was all right, but then I get, was it a telegram from Prabhupada? He wants me to go to Vrindavan. And go get a palace from a king. He was offered a palace from the Maharaja Bharatpur. So I go there, and when I got to Kosi Kalan, I could feel Vrindavan surge into me. And sometimes I have my eyes closed, and I felt like a Krura coming into Vrindavan. And, oh, it was just so magical. And I was on a tanga and just feeling it. And I went to, so this palace was Lakshmi Rani Kunj on the Jamuna River. But I went to my friend, there was a woman from a Brijbasi woman in England who we had great kirtans with, and her name was Shama Devi. When I'd leave, she'd swoon. We had a really strong relationship. Her deities were caught in customs. They thought they were antiques, and I got them out. We were close. So I went to her ashram, and it was beautiful. And the next day, we went on a parikrama of Vrindavan, and the sands were Chintamani, Prakata Sadmanaso, Kalpa Briksha, Laktashatesu, Sodabi, Rapi, Palyanta, Lakshmi, Sahasrasta, Govindamadi Purusham, Tamaham Bajami. I could feel it. I was in bliss. So the next day I went to Lakshmi Rani Kuji Palace, knocked on the door, big doors. The man let me in, but it was all run down. The Darsham Mandap, before the deity was run down, there were owls on the top floor, but the balcony opened up to the Jamuna River, and there was a private garden where the king, it needed to be renovated, but it was beautiful, but the king was not there, so Chaitya Guru again, I went across the street, and there was another king who had a school, and the principal was a gentleman, and he said, I will take you to meet the Maharaja Bharatpur. So I was staying with Shama Devi, my friend from England, and at night I heard kirtan wafting across the fields 24 hours a day. And I heard people on bullock carts, not even doing the bullock carts, the bullocks knew how to go home. He was lying in the back doing bhajans to the moon. And I heard people sweeping. Hare Krishna, sweep, sweep, Krishna, Krishna. I was in Vrindavan magic. And so we heard that the Maharaja Bharatpur was back in Delhi. So I go back there, in Jamuna I go there, and he was at a wedding. And he was sitting behind the married couple, and he's saying, this marriage will never work, the bride is so ugly. He was ugly, he was really, he died shooting at a government helicopter. Get off my land. That shows you how crazy he was, so we had to deal with it. So, he became a life member. We had one pilgrimage at the Lakshmi Rani Kunj. We were talking and negotiating, but it was snail mail. It was before fax, before phones, before all of that. So I wrote that the Maharaja Bharatpur will give us his palace, but then he wanted money. He also said, my wife ran off with the head of the Peace Corps. He was, but he was a Maharaj. When we had prasadam with him, it was first class. Again, people in costumes, silver finger bowls in between the courses, a little cherubic son, not understanding his father. So we're going around Govardhan. At any rate, we go to Delhi. He wanted money, so I'm writing Prabhupada. But later, he was in charge of Govardhan Hill. He was a Jat. He taught me how to wrap a dhoti for fighting. One leg. Any rate, it's getting long, so I'll try to be brief. We're going around Vrindavan with an entourage of big incense and nurses and an army and two queens, one with white face like a Japanese snow queen. And I'm walking with him, and then he's back there, and I go back, he says, kings don't walk like people, we walk like elephants. So I have to walk like an elephant. It took 3 days to get around Govardhan, which usually takes about 7 hours, 3 days. So we get to a temple on the hill, and Vaishnavas don't go on Govardhan Hill, but there was a rock that rang like a bell, any rate. So we get there, and it's before Govardhan Puja, and there's a priest. Now the Maharaj was strange, and he had pearl japa beads. And when he chanted, he wouldn't talk, which is a good idea, but so, at any rate, that was his rule. So the priest, the pujari, wanted some Lakshmis for the ceremony. So while he was chanting, the priest interrupted, and the Maharaj got really angry, and he had a money man, and he goes like this, and the money man gave him 100 rupees, and the Maharaj wanted to give him 1 rupee. It's an insult. And actually, he got his army of 4, and they dragged the priest away. I don't know what happened. It's stranger than fiction, these adventures. Well, as it turned out, Krishna gave us the Krishna Balaram temple instead, and it was more land. But now Shama Devi, my friend, wanted the same land, and by association she wasn't our enemy. She was right down the road. She had a Goshala, everything, but she still wanted more. And there was no municipal water out there. The bandars wouldn't even come, it's too flat. People would say, oh, the monkeys are taking my bees. Oh, my monkeys are taking my tape recorder, they escalated. Then they took passports, you know, you have to ransom them off. Personalism. At any rate. So there's no sweet water in Raman Reti. Oh, well, you know the story. It was by Krishna's grace we got the Krishna Balaram temple. She wanted it. There's a chapter in my books. He was the ringmaster. There were MPs and Gaurachan Goswami and Madhavan Goswami, who wasn't even talking to each other, and they're right across the courtyard in Radha Damodar temple. And and there was a Gunda that tried to get Mystic City that tried to put Prabhupada in a trance, and he put him in that room, and I'm in Sam Mashinda's. We were doing different documents, and he was the ringmaster. Put this person, let that mystic feed him prasad and let him take a nap, you know. And so we got the Krishna Balaram temple, so there was no sweet water. We got some scientists from Delhi with machines, they couldn't find it. One morning, Prabhupada takes his cane and says, dig here. We dug there was sweet water. We gave it to our neighbors. We were no longer dancing elephants, white elephants. We're in Mayapur, one place, Lotus building. I wanted Prabhupada's attention. I got it all the time, but not enough. Still like a little baby. I went before where he's sleeping. There was somebody sleeping in the door. I'm chanting loudly so he'd hear me. Who's that? Oh, it's Gurudas. He called me in. We wrote a letter to Indira Gandhi. It was beautiful. At that hour, it was even more nice than all the others. It was like he was so regulated. He'd teach me history when he was getting massage. And when he went on the parikrama, I could set my watch by this man, and he met at 6:03. He was very regulated, but at that time, it was really special. So the next morning, I'm chanting loudly again. He comes out. We go to the edge of the balcony, and he says, the farmers, they're asking Krishna, give me water, give me water. And Krishna says, all right, take it. And when he went like that, the skies opened up and water came out. And he didn't even change his expression, just went into the room. Like when the butterfly went on his finger, I should have photographed it, but I didn't want to set the mood. The butterfly went, but the real miracle was he said, open the window so the butterfly could get something to eat. That's our Prabhupada. Thank you very much. They were brutal. It was one of the Kalpa-vriksha. I went to Prabhupada and said, this is a tamal tree. He said, move the temple. They did move the blueprints. Move the temple.
Save the
So
tree.
he's sitting under the tamal tree, and so he asked some of the leaders to speak. There was about 6 or 7. I was feeling inadequate because they're throwing shlokas for different folks around, you know. Afterwards, Prabhupada called me in, and Pishima was there, and he said, "You have spoken from your heart. Now I can retire." He said Pishima liked it too. She understood, but any rate. So if there's any questions, fine. Otherwise, thank you very much.
So it was in 1966 you met Srila Prabhupada first time.
Yeah,
So it was in New York or here?
San Francisco.
So when he came with
New York, it was like you say, it was different. New York was more business-like. We were like influencing the world.
New York.
So New York wanted the Swami back. So I said to Samashinta, carve Lord Jagannath really slow. So Swamiji shows up at his door to speed him up. And there was a pell-mell cigarette there, and he took his cane and goes, whap! Yeah.
Prabhu, you can also tell about the carving story of Jagannath. How the deities came. We of course we read from books, but we want to hear from you directly.
So Malati was very good at getting things. She got a stove for chapatis from Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. So she was in this place called Cost Plus, which had imports. And we thought anything from India was spiritual. Oh, that Curtis from India, it's spiritual. Yeah, we really did.
Absolutely.
So she's there and looked like she's from India. So she did what's called the 5-finger discount. She took them without paying. So she takes them to Swamiji. She just took Lord Jagannath home. And she said, "Is this from India?" And he bowed down. "What?" She says, "You brought Krishna to us. This is Lord Jagannath. I shall tell you about this later." He said, "Are there any more?" She said, "Yeah, I think there was a white one, a yellow one, something like that." He said, "Go get them." So now she does the 10-finger discount. Before that, she stole a whole flat of butter from a dairy delivery, and Swamiji saw that. He was living above the temple, and he liked Charlie Chaplin movies. He could tell it was like a silent movie. So she took the whole flat. She comes in. We put the butter in a refrigerator. Swamiji calls her up. We only had one sari, one devotee in the movement. She puts the sari on. "So you have stolen the butter?" She became butter herself. She was melting. He said, "We don't steal. Those other people's things are like stool. It's Krishna's property. We should not steal." But in a forgiving way, after he chastised, he said, "But if you have to steal, then steal butter, because Krishna's called Makanchor." And then he told her the story. But she didn't learn. And so then he called Samashinda and he said, "Can you carve these?" And he said yes. And he went to a railway yard and got he was like Michelangelo, carving marble. He was a good builder. I said to Prabhupada that Samashinda be in charge of building the temple. He said, "No, you." But he built these two grandiose. The first Rath Yatra in London collapsed. It was so heavy. And there was wires. It wouldn't go under the wires. They wouldn't let us. We had to carry the pelican by hand. The second, the police had a route, and it was almost impossible. And it was successful in the route. And so we went to Trafalgar Square with the cart, and it was, but he built the altar too heavy at the inauguration in Bury Place, London. And he built the temple like an upside down ship. He knew, he brought a whole shipload of redwood before even that he shipped from San Francisco. That's how, what we believed. But I was behind the altar with all the dignitaries in the temple, and there's a fire yagya going on. No, ready to go on. And Prabhupada and I were behind the altar, and it started to collapse. And he became a lion. He was holding up, and I'm holding up. I'm calling the others in, help relieve Prabhupada from the altar falling down. So in the middle of the Abhishek, the altar fell down. But he was like a visionary. He would think big like that. So, yeah, any other, anybody had something to do, I assigned to get Prabhupada's luggage and everything. He numbered his suitcases. So I went out there and had the garland, and I was singing that tune, which we used to sing first in San Francisco.
Great.
And I said, was it special in San Francisco? And he said, yes, it was special.
Yes, and it still is.
Yes, it still is.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Any encouragement towards San Francisco as a holy dom? I'm just so blessed to be here, right across the street from Hippie Hill, and where Lord Jagannath was carved, and then you're here with us. It's the personification of the old days, you know. Yeah, we're really fortunate. So thank you all for having this meeting happen. Feel very honored that you chose to come here, and sorry the humble facilities that we have, but we do our best.
It's sort of like the first temple,
Yeah.
Frederick Street.
Yeah. The mood is the same, simple. Yeah.
Then I came here, then last week only I was thinking, why can't I see Prabhuji? So I told him several times. But I came to know that you may be that you are living, but I was not aware of the area, proximity, distance-wise. So I kept on thinking, and finally I asked him that can we ask Dhanishta Mataji, because she was, I went to Los Angeles last week, and also Laguna Beach, where I came to know that His Holiness Indradum Swami was there. So on last Sunday also he was in ISKCON Silicon Valley.
Oh, I didn't know that. He wrote a nice book about Vrindavan.
Yes, we have that.
And he wrote to me, he said I was his hero. He wrote I was his hero, and he wanted to take shelter at my lotus feet. Here's one more thing. Okay, to combine the culture of the East with the dynamics of the West, and that's what he did.
Very fortunate.
Oh, yeah.
So still like, personally I feel that it's like we are connected to this, but it's like we don't value that great fortune.
Yes, thank you. Well, because we take things for granted,
Yeah.
you know. So it should be ever fresh, Navayogana, Yasadana, and then, you know, every time we have water, we should thank Krishna.
We will not take knowledge. Already.
No, we won't.
Every time we drink,
No, please.
Take
There's plenty.
Every-
You're not hungry?
every time we
It's
drink
okay.
water, we think of Krishna. So don't take it for granted.
Just
Because
keep
again, there
whatever
was
you
no
want.
movement when I started. We have a movement.
Looks great.
Oh, they did it through the